Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Martin Wenzel. It's been a hot minute. Over a year. Oh, just about a year. A little over a year. I think it was May, early May, last time I did a stream. I think. But it's definitely been a while. And we're going to get back into it. We're going to try to get back into it. We're here with Ryanair. Going to be doing a virtual Ryanair or vRYR virtual airline, and their summer tour, which is not real ops. I mean, it goes through a lot of different real flights on the schedule. It's going to be touring France. We're currently in Malta, and we're going to be heading to Nantes in France. Nantes. I want to say Nantes because they usually drop the S. I'm going to have to look up the pronunciation for a lot of these places so I don't get it wrong. We've done a few flights on this tour, but we're going to bring this one to you today. Alright. Let's get inside the plane. Turn that off. Turn that music off for now. Alright, so let's get inside the plane. It's been a while since I've actually started the Boeing 737-8. Whoops. Actually get in here. There we go. Actually been in the 737-800. Been a while since I've actually started it from cold and dark. I've usually been doing the turnarounds. And technically this would probably be a turnaround since it's around almost noon. But we'll try to do this. So let's do the actually, we'll get a few things started first. Our battery is on and guarded already. Electric hydraulic pumps are off. These on. Landing gear lever is down in 3 green. Alright, so let's do our safety inspection. Surfaces and chocks. Go outside and check. Just do a quick walk around. Obviously, we'd be doing this a little bit more detailed in real life. We got our chocks, got the cones. Fuel truck is here, ready to fuel. We'll get that started when we get back in. All right. So safety inspection, surfaces and chocks checked. Maintenance status checked. Battery on. Electric hydraulic pumps on. Oh, okay. I guess we do have them on. The checklist has them on. I wonder if that's because we just have to do a test. I think we actually do a hydraulic test down here. That's why. Landing gear lever down. Okay. Safety inspection checklist complete. Let's get this thing going. So we do have ground power. So let's get that on. Ground power, fault in op detection. Again, it's been a while since I've done this, so remember where everything is. Here. Got a camera. There it is. Alright, I also want to get our fueling going so we're not waiting on that once we get the passengers coming on. Got that fueling. Alright, extinguisher test. 3 greens. Come on. 3 greens. APU. We'll wait on that. Since we are Ryanair, we don't want to get it going too early. Flap lever is set to 0. Cargo fire system. Test. All right, manual gear, extension system door closed. Now it's open. Close that. Emergency equipment checked, circuit breakers checked. Cockpit voice recorder. Light recorder. Is the voice recorder? Oh, there it is right there. To get green light, we do. Alright, we just did the flight recorder up there. Mach airspeed warning. Stall warning. Number 2 never seems to go. I don't know if that's supposed to, when that's supposed to come on. Reverser lights off. EEC switches are on. Passenger oxygen switch guarded and normal. Service interphone, GPS light off. IRS selectors. Line lights are lit and steady. Emergency locator transmitter armed. Where are you, ELT? As I said, it's been a while since I've done a cold and dark startup on this plane. Alright, well, there we go. Issue light, circuit breakers, crash axe, exterior inspection. First officer will go do that. This thing going. Alright, get in the box. Lima Mike Lima. Gate 3. And database, of course. Even though we're at gate 3. And we are headed to Lima Foxtrot Romeo Sierra. West that, sim brief, select route. Your Ryanair 7061 today. And at this point, let's get our IFR clearance.
Ryanair 7061, on our way to Loire-Atlantique Airport.
Nantes.
Ryanair 7061, Luqa ground. Expect runway 31, Gozo 3 Delta departure. Squawk 2033.
Gozo 3 Delta departure. Squawk 2033. Ryanair 7061.
Ryanair 7061, read back correct. Call me back when ready for pushback or engine start.
Wilco, Ryanair 7061.
I like to have all the lights lit up. Alright. We also want to do an oxygen flow test. Good on that. We'll continue setting up the box. We're almost fueled up. We'll start doing the loading, passenger loading, really soon. Okay, so our plan, did they give us the, yeah, they gave us our departure here. So 3-1, the Golf Zulu Oscar 3 Delta departure. And I always like to just put this, the arrival in, so I don't just go flying off nowhere. And we'll always adjust, we can always adjust it once we get closer. Rock. Right, so our whole flight should be set up in there. Now I'm going to kind of just skim through that because I don't want to take too long to get off the ground. In here, reserves do 1. Cost index usually for Ryanair is 6. Cruising altitude 34,000 feet today, flight level 340. Our wind 326, 47, so coming out of the northwest. We'll have a nice headwind. A little bit of a crosswind from the right, but not too bad. And then it does pull in this temperature, but it's always like 1 degree off. Over here, we're going runway 31. Okay, we're going flaps 5. And 1% is 91.3. Takeoff 1 for our rating. Selected temperature 43, 5.56. Trim. So 43 for the box. I literally just forgot what I said. 43. 43. Alright, 300 at 15 knots. Let's see how close I got it. 145, yep. These are always slightly off. Punch in our runway heading of 312. And we'll start getting loaded up here. Alright, continuing on our overhead. 34,000 for our cruise. I don't know why it keeps doing that. 300 for our altitude. Our landing altitude right now, 297 at Malta. Why it's this should be around 300 with the correct pressure. Because it's just that difference. Alright, we're going to get the APU started. Get some air going in here. It actually is quite warm. We won't make the passengers suffer too much. Buses are going crazy. Actually, we should also disconnect the fuel truck. Alright, kind of going through the flow here for the first officer. Typical first officer, emergency exit lights, passenger signs are on or auto. We got them on. Windshield wipers park, window heat on, probe heat off, wing engine anti-ice off, hydraulic system A and B on, electric pumps low pressure is extinguished. Okay, now here it says electric pumps. Oh, it is A and B on. I don't know which checklist I look at. There's one, maybe it's Southwest that does this. Or we don't, we just have the, here it's got them all on. Maybe the engine ones are supposed to be off? System A and B hydraulic pumps on. So it does say them all on. So we'll put them all on. According to this checklist.
Uniform, IFR to Gatwick.
Alright, pressure indicators, cabin differential pressure 0, altitude, fuel elevation, and cabin rate climb 0. Exterior lights on, logo lights on, nav lights on, ignition right, engine start selectors off.
Obita 2 Delta departure. Squawk 6604. Easy 48 Papa uniform.
Easy 48 Papa uniform. Read back correct. Call me back when ready for pushback or engine start.
Pull up. Wind shear.
Wilco, Easy
Wind shear.
48 Papa
Wind shear.
uniform.
Terrain. Pull up.
Airspeed full.
Easy 48 Papa uniform. Ramp 4. Request pushback.
Easy 48 Papa uniform. Luqa ground. Pushback approved. Face south.
Pushback and engine start approved. Face south. Easy 48 Papa uniform.
Okay, I think we are about ready. Let's get pushback. Prepare for pushback and departure. Do our checklist before start checklist. IRS mode selectors, nav, gear pins removed, probe covers removed, light test checked, oxygen tested 100%, yaw damper on, nav transfer and display switch here where we should be looking, normal and auto fuel, what's our requirement? I can't do the math right there, but I know it's right. 9,900 required, 9,900 on board. All pumps on. Cab util IFE galley power on. Emergency exit lights on. Fasten belts on. Window heat on. Air conditioner and pressure packs on. Bleeds on. Set. Pressurization mode selector auto. Instruments cross-checked. Auto brake. RTO for rejected takeoff. Hydraulics normal. Speed brake down detent. I believe that is our down detent. Yep, we don't want it armed. Parking brake set. Not set. Stab trim cutout switches normal. Wheel well fire warning checked. Radios, radar, and transponders set and standby. Rudder and aileron trims free and zero. Takeoff briefing discussed. I didn't do a takeoff briefing, but you would discuss various things for takeoff. Obviously, engine out, failure issues, and stuff like that. We're not going to do that today because we're already 23 minutes in. But that's what we would do at this point. PA, same thing. We would talk to the passengers. FMC CDU is set. N1 IAS bugs auto and set. Stab trim set. Performance signed and sent. EFB airplane mode stowed. Mobile phones airplane mode. Flight deck windows and cockpit door locked. We have that on. Inoperable, so can't do it on this plane anyway. Doors closed. Passengers seated. Okay, so let's get double check. Doors should be closed. We still have 2 doors open. I guess because I told it to open the doors in the box itself, GSX didn't close them. So we check up here, make sure these are closed.
Contact Luqa Tower 135.105.
And let's get our pushback
Over to tower
request in.
135.105. Easy 48 Papa uniform.
Ryanair 7061, ramp 3, request pushback and engine start.
Ryanair 7061, Luqa ground, pushback and engine start approved. Face south.
Pushback approved. Face south. Ryanair 7061.
Alright, so we're going to want to push back tail to the left when that pops up. Oh, you know what I never did? I never actually turned the packs on. So I'm so used to doing the turnaround that the packs are already on. So our packs are already off. Anti-collision light on. That should have already been on. Parking brake set. I didn't go all the way down the checklist. That was my fault. But we'll go here. Altitude reporting off for the transponder. Parking brake set. We are now ready to start. And so now, hit that. Alright, N2 at 25%. At 56%, it should turn our engine start selector back to off and auto. Did this actually push me back properly? It did not. Thank you very much. Yeah, sometimes the pushbacks, if you don't do it manually, kind of get left out to dry there. Alright, so our switch has gone back to off. Alright, starting engine 1. If we have a good engine start, so we'll start getting them disconnected, since they didn't really do a good pushback anyway. It didn't sound right, that engine, because that EasyJet that was parked next to us keeps taking off. I was wondering where he went. Did you just say left is clear and right is clear? You know, this guy's still under us. I've sworn they don't say that until they're out there waving. I don't know. Alright, here we go. Let's get the generators on. Continuous probe heat switches on. CPU off. That's 5. Checking the flight controls, free and full movement, recall button, checked and clear, ground equipment removed. Before taxi checklist, generators on, APU off, start switches continuous, probe heat on, anti-ice off, air conditioning, PAX auto bleeds on, isolation valve, auto. Flaps 5, required. 5 selected, green light, stab trim, 5.5 units selected, green set, start levers, idle detent, flight controls checked, recall checked. Ready for taxi.
Ryanair 7061. Request taxi to be active.
Ryanair 7061, runway 31 taxi via Victor, uniform, Tango, Charlie.
Runway 31 taxi via Victor, uniform, Tango, Charlie, Ryanair 7061.
Alright, so we are technically should have been backed facing the other way on to Victor. We'll get spun around here. Luckily EasyJet's already gone, so we're not gonna get in too much trouble turning into stand 4 there.
Ryanair 7061. Contact Luqa Tower 135.105.
Over to Tower 135.105, Ryanair 7061. Have a good day. Ryanair 7061. Ready for departure, runway 31.
Ryanair 7061. Backtrack runway 31. Call when ready for departure.
Backtrack runway 31. Call when ready. Ryanair 7061.
All right, clear left, clear right. Kind of hard to see. Should be no planes coming from our right, as the active runway is in front of us. EasyJet, you know, the last plane to take off was EasyJet, and they should be taking off from here. So if any plane was landing, we should see it. And I do see some lights out there. Maybe not. I saw something for a second there, and that's how it is. I mean, that's when you're flying. So I've been doing my flight training the last, kind of just slow rolling it the last year. There it is. I do see it. There is like a speck right there. I wonder if that's another plane coming in. It must be far enough out. But you'll get call outs from ATC, obviously telling you, hey, like, you know, traffic at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock, whatever it is, at 3,000 feet, and you're just looking. You're higher than them or lower than them, and you're just looking. And especially when you're looking down at the ground, they blend in. When you're looking up at the sky, it's just, okay, where are they? And they're just a speck sometimes. And I was kind of nervous the other day. We were doing our doing maneuvers and stuff, and it was just a busy day because it was a nice day, and so a lot of people are out flying general aviation, and really have to have your eyes up. Obviously, the more planes that have the ADS-B out that our for-flight on our iPads can pick up, that lets us see them on our instruments.
Skynight 515, Luqa Tower, continue.
Did I spin the wrong way?
Skynight 515.
Was I even supposed to backtrack on this? I think so. I don't know. Wonder which way the backtrack is proper. Well, they do have the... Alright. Let's stop right here and request departure again.
Ryanair 7061.
checklist.
Ready for departure, runway 31.
Well, there is no checklist for Ryanair before the...
7061, Luqa Tower, into 75 at 15, runway 31, cleared for takeoff, traffic 7 mile final, no delay.
Runway 31, cleared for takeoff. No delay. Ryanair 7061.
No delay. 7 mile final for the traffic. Wind has shifted a little bit, so we'll have a little bit of a crosswind from the left. Wind's coming from 275 now.
Airspeed alive. Knots. E1, rotate. Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. See, we're getting pushed a little bit to the left or to the right of the runway.
Ryanair 7061. Contact Luqa departure 128.155.
Contact Luqa departure 128.155. Ryanair 7061. Luqa, Ryanair 7061. Good day, 2,500 feet.
Ryanair 7061, Luqa departure, identified, climb to flight level 170.
Climb to flight level 170, Ryanair 7061.
You can see how much the wind has shifted as we got up above 3,000. Now it's coming a little bit from our right. Alright, flaps 1, and we'll go flaps up. And we'll engage the autopilot. And we'll be able to take in a little bit of the scenery as we pull out of Malta. Standard pressure. Alright, climbing to flight level 170. Hopefully I'm not banging the mic too much. I didn't test on the mic. It feels like it's a lot more sensitive than I had it before. But we'll have to adjust that. We'll listen back and see how bad the mic was on this one. Alright, so we'll have Sicily. Be able to see Sicily as we're flying over that. We'll fly over Corsica as well. I think that's Sicily off in the distance already.
761. Contact Malta Control 122.775.
Contact Malta Control 122.775, Ryanair 7061. Malta Control, Ryanair 7061, through flight level 147 for flight level 170.
Ryanair 7061, Malta Control, identified, climb to flight level 340.
Climb to flight level 340, Ryanair 7061.
7061, contact Rome Raindor 131.1.
Center on 131.1, Ryanair 7061. Rome radar, Ryanair 7061. Good day. Through flight level 257 for flight level 340 directed XC.
Ryanair 7061, Rome radar, identified. Skynight 479, turn left, heading 120, vectors for the approach. Turn left, heading 120, Skynight 479. Skynight 479, contact Luqa approach 128.155. Contact Luqa approach 128.155, Skynight 479. Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot, Rome radar, expect Tuxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08.
Expect Tuxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08, Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot. Rome radar, EZ48 Papa uniform. Good day. Climbing flight level 223 for flight level 380 direct Mailbox.
EZ48 Papa uniform. Rome radar. Radar contact. Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot. Uxuta 1 Foxtrot. Runway 08. Report ready for descent.
Uxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08, ready for descent. Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot.
Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot. Descent to flight level 150.
Descend to flight level 150, Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot.
Itarov 1711. Contact Brindisi radar 123.905.
Center on 123.905, Litero 1711.
Ryanair 878 Papa. You were assigned flight level 370. Show UAT flight level 359er. Climb to flight level 370.
Wilco, climb to flight level 370, Ryanair 878 Papa.
Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec, Ram Radar, expect Uxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08. Expect Uxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08, Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec. Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec, Uxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08, report ready for descent. Uxuta 1 Foxtrot, runway 08 ready for descent, Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec. Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec, descent to flight level 150. Descent to flight level 150, Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec. Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec, contact Catania approach 120.805. Contact Catania approach 120.805, Alpine 63 Yankee Quebec.
Alright, so we're at cruise, flight level 340, Ryanair flight 7061, service to Nantes Atlantique airport in France, in Nantes, France. We're doing the Tour de France summer tour for virtual Ryanair, or vRYR. I think there is a virtual Ryanair. This is actually vRYR. Really cool virtual airline. The one I fly for to do my European flights. I also fly for virtual Southwest virtual. There's another one where it's like there's so many different ones. There's virtual Southwest virtual. But yeah, the Ryanair does a lot of different tours every season. I did the winter tour. I think it was called the Cold and Dark tour, and a lot of the flights were northern Germany, Poland, Sweden, Denmark, Ireland, Britain, up north during the winter. So it was a lot of not so much night flying, but just the flights were, it was dark because the sun was going down early, and you're way up north where it goes down even earlier. This tour, we're more in the Mediterranean. I mean, definitely more France. So it's going to be kind of cool. And I haven't run into too many frame rate issues flying in France either. Typically on that dark and cold and dark tour, there was a lot of crossing over Germany back and forth, and Germany really hits the frames hard, whereas France, I'm getting a solid 30, and I have Flight Simulator limited to 30. There's no need to go over that. Just save the energy. But yeah, whenever I would do that flights over Germany, it felt a lot like flying over the U.S. in Flight Simulator. And so this tour, so they do some big tours. They do like grand tours, which are, let's see what this one is. It's for the summer of 2025. You can complete it anytime between 3rd of May and the 18th of October. So it's a good chunk of time to complete these flights. And there's 28 flights, 28 legs, and a lot of the flights are going to and from a French airport. I'm trying to think if there are any that are not. Yeah, the last flight is from Bristol to Dublin, because the tour started in Dublin. We flew to Biarritz, then Biarritz to Milan, Milan to Lourdes, Pyrenees, and then from there to Malta, and now we're going to Nantes. Next flight is up to Edinburgh. So we got a few flights going in and out of England, or out of United Kingdom. We got a flight down into Portugal, a flight down into Morocco, a few flights down into Morocco. But not all of them just staying within France. Actually, most of the flights are not even. But there's always a French airport on one end, except for the last flight where it's just getting us back to Dublin from Bristol. I'm going to be doing that this summer, and then I also am trying to do. I'm going to be doing the real ops for DAC, Delta Alpha Charlie, which I think is. I don't know if those are the old. Sure what. Actually, I think Delta Alpha Charlie is like just Ryanair, pure Ryanair, I think is what that is. If I look. Because Ryanair has, well, they have 5 real ops events going on for the virtual Ryanair. They got the Blue Max, which is Romeo Uniform Kilo, RUK. So those are going to be, I don't know where that's flying out of. So you're doing real flights out of London Stansted. And what all these real ops are, they basically just set up like, I think it's a 5. So for the Delta Alpha Charlie, the DAC one, we're flying out of Thessaloniki. I was kind of interested in that because it's more Greece, but again, you're mostly flying, or only flying to 3 other Greek airports. But what it is you're doing the real ops. You're doing flying a full 5-day rotation based on real airline operations out of Thessaloniki using the Boeing 737-800. The schedule mirrors actual summer 2025 ops and features a diverse mix of both scenic island hops and busy Euro mainline runs. So for that tour, we're going to be doing flying to Poznan, Poland, to Rhodes, Naples, Brussels, Bologna, which we did. I believe we did a whole real ops tour out of Bologna before. I think I streamed a few of those flights. Zagreb, Croatia, Eindhoven, Netherlands, Corfu again, Milan, and Heraklion, Crete. So that should be a fun tour. And I kind of want to try to do. What I would love to do is do a whole, like each day as a whole stream, which would be 4 flights. I believe each day is 4 flights. Looking. So it's 2 turns basically. Thessaloniki out to a destination and back, and then out to another destination and back, which is a typical Ryanair flight ops for a pilot. Yeah, 4 flights a day, because 20 flights, 5 days. That'd be kind of cool if I could do that. I don't think that's going to be possible to be able to stream all of that in one day, just with my busy schedule, the family, doing summer stuff. But at the very least we could do, my plan would be if I were to do a few of these flights, I would be to do the flight out and the flight back. Especially with this first pair, it's out to Poznan, it's about 2.5 hours out and then 2.5 hours back, so that'd be about 5 hours. That's already quite a long stream. The next 2 flights are only an hour and a half each, but again, that's getting you to an 8-hour, 9-hour day.
flight 78 Papa. Roam radar. Expect radar vectors. ILS runway 31.
Expect radar vectors. ILS runway 31. Ryanair 878.
And I don't know, I feel way busier this summer than ever before. It's just, I mean, working the same hours, not working terribly more hours. I mean, working 60 hours a week, which is a lot, but 2 days off. I got my schedule set up now that I can I get all Sundays off, so that's nice. I know I'm getting Sundays off. The problem is that just makes it actually busier on the other day of the week because, you know, whether it's a Wednesday like today or a Thursday or a Tuesday, whatever it is, that's the day of the week that I gotta get everything done. That you would do normally during a weekday. You know, doctor's appointments, getting the car into the shop, even doing my flight lessons. Again, I'm flying, trying to get my private pilot's license right now. The goal was to try to get my private pilot's license quickly, and even last year before we went to China in June last summer, we went. My flight instructor, I mean, I think I started in April, maybe March. And I think at the end of April, early May, I was telling him, hey, we're going to be going to China for a few weeks in June. So I'm going to be out for that time. And he's like, oh, we should have you done by June. And if I had gone every opportunity, if I could go 5 days a week, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's just availability and going and flying. If you can fly every day or 2, 3, 4 times a week, you can knock that out pretty quick. And I'm at 38 hours. I'm almost at the minimum hours I need to be able to take the check ride and do all that. And we're just doing, like right now, it's just getting used to, because I was doing a lot of my training in the Cessna 152. Now I'm doing it in the Cessna 172 because it just has a little bit more room. I feel a little bit more comfortable having a little bit more room with the examiner, and also it opens up the field of examiners available to test you, because not a lot of people want to test you out in the 152, which is just a smaller plane. And again, getting that 40 hours, I could have easily done that in a few months if I had more time. And now my training's gotten a lot slower because I'm only going once a week because my instructor's not available on Sundays. But having Sundays off really allows me to just have that one day completely dedicated to family. And then that weekday, I have to get that flight lesson scheduled, and not slack off and be like, I just don't feel like it. Because that's how I kind of run it. I just don't feel like it a lot.
Descend to flight level 350 at Nair 757.
The worst part is, if it's a worst part, is I signed up for the flight club. It has kind of a membership that you can sign up for. You pay $700 up front, and then you pay $70 a month for the membership. But then all your ground lessons knock off, I think, $10 an hour. All your flight, your plane rental fees, you knock off, I think, $10, $15, $20 an hour. I can't remember what it is. And then, again, the instructor, you knock off $10, $15 an hour. So I think I figured it out that if I go I have to schedule at least 6 hours of flying to make the $70 membership fee pay off for every month, not to mention the $700 upfront. And I think I figured out, like, based on all the hours I need to get, based on like getting 90 hours over the next year, I would have saved like $1,200 doing it this way. But now I think I've actually spent more because I'm not going 6 hours a month. I actually had a couple months where I didn't go at all, and then they charge you just a full 1 hour rental fee on the Cessna 172, which is, so now you're not even getting the flight hour in your logbook, and you're just paying $220 for the month because you're paying that membership fee and the 1 hour. So I've kind of, and so now it's kind of every month I have this like, okay, I got to get scheduled. I got to at least get 1 hour scheduled so I don't get dinged with the rental fee for nothing.
Ryanair 8 Charlie Foxtrot. Contact Brindisi Radar.
And I'm kind of wondering, should I just cancel at this point? Should I just cancel the membership? But then I feel like once I cancel the membership, then then I'm paying full price for everything. But I don't have the pressure of having to get it scheduled. I don't know, it's a little weird. I feel like as soon as I cancel the membership, then I'm going to, you know, by the time I pull the trigger on canceling the membership, that's when I'm going to have my private license, and then I'll be more, I guess, more motivated to go out and fly on my own. I always struggle when I'm flying or when I'm doing any training with someone else. I really like doing things, I feel more comfortable doing things alone. You know, it's kind of like when you're driving, right? It was the same thing when I was learning to drive semi-truck. Being out on the road for 5 weeks with my trainer, it was always awkward because he's always looking over your shoulder. He's right there, you know. Even though there was a good chunk of my 5 weeks out there, I mean, pretty quickly he had me just driving on my own. He was just reclining in the, you know, either if he was in the passenger seat, he wasn't like, you know, glued on what I was doing, or he was in the bunk and he was napping, or, you know, just relaxing, because he knew I knew how to drive. And there wasn't a ton that he had to tell me, but even then, he was still there. And then when we'd get to a location I had to back in, he was watching, and I remember I think probably the second or third week, I just completely couldn't back anymore. Suddenly I lost my ability to back a semi-trailer into a dock, and it was just really frustrating. And it was even worse because he was trying to help me, and I think when he was trying, and he eventually got to the point where he's like, okay, I'm not going to help you, I'm just going to let you do it. And that actually helped, because when he was giving signals and I was relying too much on him. And that's sometimes the same thing when I'm doing my flight lessons. I find myself not as focused on the radios, not as focused on everything I need to be doing, because my instructor's right there. And you know, I found that when I was flying, when I did my cross-country solo, when I do my solo flying, when I did my 2 cross-country solo, that I didn't miss things as much. You know, I was more focused on the checklists, or there just wasn't things missing, at least I know of. But there's been, I always find that during my flight lessons, I always miss obvious things. I screw up little things. It's like, oh yeah, I know that, but I get flustered. And so I'm not as like excited to go fly when I have to go do a flight lesson.
Contact Luqa approach 128.155 Ryanair 8.
Even though obviously that's what you need. You need the training, you need all that, but I figure I'll probably cancel the membership, and then I'll have my private pilot license, and then I'll want to be out flying, taking my son out flying, or my wife out flying, or doing stuff, and you know, then I'll be paying full price and not getting the benefit. But like right now, I think, and even again, I just don't think I have the time. I think I could get, like when I figured it out, the 6 hours a month, it was like, oh, I could do that, because that's 2, maybe 3 times a month you can go, and you can knock out, you know, again, I don't want to be in the plane with my flight instructor for 3, 4, 5 hours, but if I was flying on my own, you know, and doing sightseeing, going where I want to go, I could easily see flying for 3, 4 hours, no problem, and doing that twice a month easily. So I guess I'll just keep wasting the money on the membership and making sure I get at least 1 hour in every month to avoid paying more than I need to. I mean, the biggest thing is I don't know my work schedule until Thursday. So tomorrow I will find out my work schedule for next week. Well, by Thursday, I have to jump on it. As soon as I find out my schedule, I have to jump on our scheduling for the plane club, the airplane club, the flying club, and I have to, hopefully, my plane's available and my instructor's available. And again, once I get my private pilot, I'm able to fly on my own and just schedule myself whenever. It'll be a little bit easier to go, okay, well, here's when it's available. Yet my instructor's out with someone else in another plane, but I can grab this plane, and I can grab any of the 3 planes because I'll know how to fly the 152 and the 172 and be checked out on both of them. And I can just go out and fly. But right now, you know, got to line up both the instructor and the plane. And especially now as we go into summer, the issue is, I mean, even during the winter, it was a scheduling issue. It was a scheduling nightmare because there's just so many people wanting to fly. We got 3 planes and so many people want to fly and only so many instructors. And again, I have 1 day off, and if my day I didn't get scheduled, well, I'm kind of miss out that week, and then it's the next week I don't get, you know. And sometimes, I know I did this last year, I would just schedule that, and then I would tell my boss, hey, I need this day off. But it gets a little, but now, well, during the winter, I get my schedule in, and then the weather's terrible. I can't think how many times lately it hasn't been an issue of weather. Actually, the last few times I've actually had a flight scheduled, a lesson scheduled, I've been able to fly. So that's been nice. Because usually it's the only time I've been able to fly, and it's the only time I got scheduled the whole month, and if I didn't get that time in, I'd be paying an extra $150 or whatever, and not getting an hour of flight. But now we're getting into the time of year where, can I get scheduled? Okay, I got scheduled. Now hopefully the weather should be more often better than not, but you never know. Like I scheduled a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago already. I mean, that's how time is flying so fast. I scheduled just a ground lesson. I just wanted to go over, like, kind of do a little bit of a mock oral test for the private pilot. And I scheduled that. I had looked out at the weather, and the weather was going to be, it looked like it was going to be crappy. It had already been crappy all week. And I get there, and it was foggy, and the weather wasn't good, and so if I had scheduled an actual flight, wouldn't have been able to do that, and it would have either turned into a ground lesson, or we would have decided I probably, if I hadn't scheduled a ground lesson, I just wouldn't have gone in at all. I would have said, yeah, let's call it, I'm not even going to come in. But I am now at the time, I'm now at the point where it's like I want to do some more ground lessons, sit down and actually have them ask me a lot more questions, practice for that oral test, because that's the part of the test I'm most concerned about, I want to say. Even though I know that I'll probably screw up on the practical part of it. Even though I can do all the practical stuff. It's just a question, can I do it consistently? Can I do it under that pressure where it's like, oh, this is the test? But I really feel the part that always gets me is the kind of the oral part, the part where, hey, you have this situation, or what is the procedure for this, or da 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 da. And that's a big part on the practical stuff. I mean, there are the procedures, the emergency procedures, the landing procedures, which I still, again, I think this is a symptom, a product of not flying every single day or consistently, at least once a week consistently, because that's the thing. At this point, I'm lucky if I fly once a month. But we'll see. I'm trying to get into flying on the simulator more here in Microsoft Flight Simulator and see how that gets me more juiced up to fly in real life. Because I even for the past few months I haven't been flying, or at this past month I've been flying a lot more in Flight Simulator, but I want to say a month ago I was playing a lot of City Skylines 2. A month before that I was playing a lot of War of Rights and various Star Wars games and just lots of different stuff, kind of bouncing around. So I'm going to try to stream a little bit more, figure out what a good time to stream is also. I know these early streams is when I kind of set up to do the early stuff. I mean, I get up early in the morning for my work. On the days off, I tend to get up a little bit later. But today I was alright. And more the issue is okay, who's going to be watching at this time? And we are live time on the stream. In the simulator right now, it's live time, I believe. And so I think the problem is my stream starts a little bit too early because people are still at work in Europe, at work in the UK. Where it tends to be, it seems a lot of my followers have been lately when I've started streaming this early mornings. And so I don't get to stream for my fellow Americans as much because they're going to be all at work at this point during the week.
Good day. Flight level 300.
But then the question is, do I want to stream early in the morning because I'm going to want to do my bike riding, and bike riding during summer is better in the morning before it really gets blazing hot. My flight training, when I do my flight lessons, I like to do them earlier in the morning because it's not as hot. And it just tends to be I'm more awake in the morning, or I'm not. It's weird because in the morning you're kind of sluggish, but at the same time it's also the freshest you are. Whereas by 2 in the afternoon you're starting to drag on the other end. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what we fly here. I've actually been looking at the World Tour flights. We never finished that World Tour that I was doing for years. I believe the last time I did a World Tour flight, it crashed. It was a 4-hour flight. I might have been doing time acceleration, but it was a 4-hour flight from I think Kyrgyzstan to Kuwait, and it crashed on our approach to Kuwait. And so I kind of gave up on that. I didn't want to try again because it's such a long flight to just get to Kuwait and for the sim to crash. So I don't know if that was an issue with the airport. The airport's been updated numerous times probably since. I just downloaded it yesterday, the Kuwait airport, which is one of the first airports I ever downloaded for Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. And it's, even after all these years, it's still a really good freeware airport. So downloaded it, I loaded it in, got into it yesterday, and it seemed to run fine. But again, we crashed on approach, so I don't know what caused that. That's a little concerning. But at some point, we'll schedule that World Tour flight, knock that one out. I always wish the drone camera didn't tip over like that. But we are coming up on, I believe this is Corsica. Oh, Sardinia. Corsica's the northern island. A bit further up there. This is Sardinia. Down there is Cagliari.
Itarov 061, descend to flight level 130.
Descend to flight level 130, Itarov 061.
Itarov 061.
Alright, looks like we have an hour and a half until top of descent. It's a long flight. I'm probably going to step away for a little while here as we fly over Sardinia, and then we'll be back over the Mediterranean.
Good day. Flight level 380.
It's always interesting looking at these maps because you have all these different seas in here, and it's like, where does the Mediterranean Sea end and begin? Because you have the Balearic Sea, you have the Tyrrhenian Sea. I'm terrible at these. So right now, are we technically over the Tyrrhenian Sea or the Mediterranean Sea? You know, kind of that little area, that sea that's kind of almost surrounded by Sicily and Sardinia and Italy. There's a big gap. Big gap where you can just draw a straight line between Rome and Tunis. I'll probably step away for a little bit here. I want to get do a little work on my bike. Actually, connect up a little buggy so that my son I can pull my son along on a bike ride and see how the weather is. It's been unseasonably cool here in the U.S., or at least in the Midwest where I'm at. I mean, it's May 28th, and I think it's, oh my God, right now it's 54 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. And rain starting. Oh, okay. Maybe I won't. I was kind of hoping that the weather, it's kind of weird. Like if I'm streaming, I want the weather to be poor outside, because then I don't feel like I'm missing out on being able to go on my bike ride or something, do outdoor stuff. It's the worst feeling when, I want to fly Microsoft Flight Simulator, I want to stream, I want to do stuff, because I only have so much time I can do that, but at the same time then I'm looking out the window and it's a beautiful day out. And that was how it was on Monday. Memorial Day was beautiful. Well, still a little chilly. I think it was only in the 60s. And again, end of May, typically we should be solidly in the 70s. Again, I'm in freedom units right now, Fahrenheit. But you're in the 70s, which, your shorts weather, t-shirt, go out and you're good. And I want to say Memorial Day was that. It was 70, but it was like if you were in the shade. And I went over to my dad's house to pick up the buggy, and it was evening, late afternoon, so the sun was now in like their house. They have a patio in the backyard, which is on the east side of the house, and so the sun's going down in the west and nice shadows being cast, which is nice during the summer when it's 80, 90 degrees, but even when it's 80, 90 degrees, then it's just always ambiently warm. But of course, it's better in the shade than in the sun. Well, I was over there and I was cold because in the shade it was probably 50 compared to out front. You go out front and it's like, oh, it's nice out here. It's 70 degrees. It's nice. The sun beating down. And that's late May. That's Memorial Day. Official start of summer. Or the unofficial start of summer. It's just been cold and miserable and rainy and windy. It's been very windy. And that's why I was surprised every time I have scheduled to fly. We haven't been washed out by weather, which has been surprising to me just based on how bad the weather's been this month. Every once in a while we'll get like 2-3 days where it's 60, 70, it's sunny, and it's like, okay, breaking out the shorts, and then the next day suddenly it's 50. I mean, we got down, it was, I want to say last week or a couple weeks ago, we were back down. Like I went to the store, bought a bunch of seedlings, bought a bunch of plants, vegetables, some flowers, put them out in my raised gardens. Starting a raised garden this year. That's another thing that I'm adding onto the busy schedule. Planted all that stuff, watered it, got it all good, and then I swear the next day, the next week, it was low 40s, high 30s, almost freezing, and it was just nasty rain and wind. And I'm thinking, great, I just spent almost $200 on plants and dirt and all that stuff to do this garden, and most of that money is going to get wiped out. because I waited until mid-May. I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be a late plant, and then when I looked, it was like, oh yeah, the last frost was like April 30th. I'm like, oh, okay, good. I didn't wait too long because I waited until the frost was done, and that's what it was. It just felt like it's too cold. It's too cold. And then it started getting nice, and I was like, okay, I think we're good. I think we've turned the corner. And nope, rain. I think we had some. I mean, we had some nasty thunderstorms. But again, I'm fine with thunderstorms because that means we're getting warmer. We had that, and then suddenly a cold. I don't know if you'd say it. I should know all this because this is part of the private pilot training. Knowing all the weathers and cold fronts and warm fronts and all that stuff. But man, the cold just came in, and it was like I was dressing for work. I busted back out my heavy sweatshirt again that I wear usually. It's basically what I wore this winter. I wore a heavier jacket actually. I don't know if it's just I'm older and I feel colder now. But I busted out the warmer sweatshirt, and then I put on the undershirt as well, a long sleeve undershirt as well, which is typically how I would, because it was, again, like the temperature was getting close to freezing. It was just crazy because 2-3 days earlier I was wearing shorts and was blasting the air conditioning, had the windows rolled down, getting the breeze and the contact high driving through the north side of Milwaukee. And then the next few days it's miserable. My feet are cold. My shoes are just soaked because it was just pouring rain and blowing sideways. So my shoes are supposedly waterproof, or they're water resistant. There's times where that it holds true, and it's like, okay, these actually are water resistant, but because they're barefoot shoes, they tend to run colder. But yeah, the weather's been wild, and like I said, yeah, we got light rain right now. I wonder if it's actually raining. Well, I'm going to step away. I'm going to see if it's raining, and that might determine if I go outside and clean up the buggy and hook it up, because I'm not going to do that if it's raining. I don't have enough room in the garage to do it in the garage because we've got 2 vehicles in there. But it should be getting that time of year where I'm going to be able to start biking again. Do need to buy some new tires for the bike. They're looking a little raggedy and cracked. Every time I think about the bike I have here in the US, I think it's over 40 years old. It's such an old road bike. I bought a nice, I had a new bike, a new Trek, when I was in China, and it's still over there. I rode it a little bit last summer when we were over there when I was over there for 3 weeks. My wife and son stayed over there the whole summer with her family. And man, do I miss riding my bike over there. I miss it so much, China. Then I came back here, was riding my 40, 50-year-old bike, and I'm kind of looking at it going, man, I need to upgrade. I need to look at a new bike, but again, I'm in like save mode right now. I just want to save all this money so I can do my flight training. Whether it's flight training or I'm just saving and building up a great emergency fund for our family, one or the other. But then, of course, we're getting into this time where it's like, okay, we got some stuff we got to look at on our car. My parents gifted us a van for free. It's almost a 20-year-old van, though, a Honda Odyssey. Actually, I prefer it because it's bigger. The family is expanding, and it actually runs quieter than our car. We're having issues with our car where it's running really loud and just doesn't seem to have the oomph, whereas the van just goes. But the van has a battery issue. I don't know if it's a battery draw issue, where it's just draining the battery when it's not used. And as long as you're using it consistently every day, and today is going to be a test because I haven't used it. I used it all weekend, worked yesterday so it wasn't used. Will it start up right away today? So can it sit a day and not be used? Because for sure it can't sit a week or two or a month without being used consistently because it'll drain. Now, is it the battery itself, or is there, because I know there's this Phantom Honda Odyssey battery drain that actually does exist, so we have to take that in, get the battery checked, make sure the battery's good. Maybe the battery's just crap also. My dad thinks he replaced it, but that might have been who knows how long ago. So we got that, so we got a few things there. I want to get, I'm looking at bike, but honestly I would love to get I want to get a upgraded road bike for myself, but I also want to get like a electric bike, like an electric Dutch cargo bike with the big cargo thing in the front where you can sit kids and stuff. I would think that'd be cool. But those run, especially the electric ones, run like $6,000 with all the accessories that you're going to need, like a rain cover and all that. But that can be, depending on where you live, that can be a car replacement. I still don't think that would be a car replacement for where we live because, we're in America and it's just so car-centric that you got to live in just the right area. And we're kind of in the weird area where we're close to stuff, but it's not the most accessible by bike, just because of the nature of we're kind of in this valley, and probably the biggest, like the most direct route to get to where a lot of the places I need to get to, like for grocery shopping and stuff, it's a freeway on our end of on our side of town at this point. Now they do have plans to tear that all down and turn it into a boulevard. Of course, I think they're going to turn it into a strode. It's not going to be great for biking on, and eventually it'll be terrible, but it'll be better than a freeway. I've got that, and then of course I'm starting to get back into the flight simulator a lot more and thinking about streaming more. And I did a flight, a test stream a couple days ago from Miami to Nashville over the US, and I could not get more than, like, on average it seemed like I was at like 15 frames per second that entire flight streaming that. And it's always been an issue since I upgraded this computer. I upgraded, and I found out pretty quickly after I upgraded that, I didn't upgrade to good enough computer to do what I want to do. That's good enough CPU. I think my graphics card is great. My graphics card is actually is sufficient. It is an AMD card, so the issue is there are some streaming, like, I don't have the benefit. NVIDIA is a better card for streaming still. So I've actually went on PC Part Picker and I started putting together a new system, and I'm surprisingly was able to build a system that put together a parts list for like $2,000, including a graphics card, which is very surprising. I'm looking at like the 5070 for NVIDIA. Last NVIDIA I had was a 1070. So I'm like a 5070, and a 5070 would be an upgrade over what I have. And I'm looking at, because it's similarly the way I bought this AMD card, was looking at, okay, what is cost versus performance? What is the best cost performance card out there with the current prices? And the 5070 is the best NVIDIA one for cost, cost per frame. I think there were a couple AMD cards, and again, it seems like AMD always does. They have a couple cards that are the better, and I think they might even be better cards. They might be like a little bit higher range cards even, but I think it's either they're out of my range or they're still in the range of price I'm willing to pay. But I do kind of want to get an NVIDIA card and see how the streaming is with that. Because I've noticed with like the AMD, the card I have right now, it's I can't stream like fast movements. Whenever I move, you'll see a lot of artifacting. I'm starting to lose frame rate right now. I don't know why, because there's not a lot of scenery here. I wonder if that just happens after being in the simulator for a certain amount of time too. But yeah, usually I've noticed when I watch back my streams, a lot of artifacting when we do movement. And I noticed that on other people's streams, I don't notice that. And usually they're running an NVIDIA card. And I do want to do other streams, other games, other than Microsoft Flight Simulator, which, Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can kind of sit it and not do anything, and it'll look really good for a while. And even when you move, once you get back to another spot, it clears up. And when you're outside looking at the plane moving, it's not too bad. But I noticed with the dark colors, you get a lot of those blocks and everything. And then I don't notice that with the NVIDIA, like when I watch other people's streams. So I'm kind of interested in getting back into NVIDIA and really getting a souped up computer CPU. Now, I probably could look at, I might still look at AMD for the CPU, we'll see. I think I threw in the i9 14 whatever, because I know a lot of the streamers that I follow, I've looked at their systems and a lot of them got the i9. Just overkill on the CPU, because the CPU, Microsoft Flight Simulator is so CPU intensive. Streaming can be CPU intensive. You want to just have a lot of overhead on that. And that's where my bottleneck is right now. My current system is the CPU. My graphics card, I max out my graphics because I need my graphics card to be actually being used. It's the CPU that's the struggle, and graphics are never really the issue with Flight Simulator for me. It's all the CPU intensive stuff. It's running something like Beyond ATC and having all the other traffic. It's the airports loading in. And even that I don't think is usually the problem. It's again all the objects and stuff, and that's a lot of CPU. I know for sure the CPU gets beat down with the streaming and the Beyond ATC or the FS HUD ATC or anything where you're injecting traffic and having it be controlled. Okay, I keep saying I'm going to step away and I don't step away. So I'm going to step away for a little while. And should be back once we hit Montpellier. We're going to fly over that. We're going to be hitting that VOR, which is a Foxtrot Juliet Romeo for Montpellier Airport. And that'll be the south coast of France. Right there. You see we're kind of flying up over here.
Ryanair 7061. Contact Marseille, control 119.825. Have a good day.
Center on 119.825. Ryanair 7061.
Enter to Marseille control.
Marseille control. Ryanair 7061.
And I'll leave you with the beautiful view of the plane. Actually, we'll go to this view. That way the camera doesn't tilt over. Of course, if my son gets up and runs in here, the plane will probably crash because he will grab the flight stick and just nosedive it into the seat. And unfortunately, in this drone view, your controls are not locked. And I don't know how to control. Is there a way to lock controls on certain cameras? Because I know you can unlock controls on the drone camera, like the basic drone camera. But if you go into any of these other cameras, it's technically like you can still fly the plane in this view without having to unlock the controls. That key bind just brings up the control. Map.
Marseille Control, Ryanair 7061. Good afternoon. Flight level 340.
Portugalia 875. Contact Barcelona Center 11 minute decimal 45.
Center on 11 minute decimal 45. Portugalia 875.
Easy 80 Victor Echo. Mount 7 Echo. Runway 12 left. Report ready for descent.
Men 7 Echo, runway 12 left, ready for descent. Easy 80 Victor Echo.
Easy 80 Victor Echo. Descend to flight level 1 mini 0.
Descend to flight level 190, easy 80 Victor Echo.
Alright, I don't know what's going on here. We got this imbalance again. This always seems to happen. We're just going to turn off the pumps before this. We're going to do crossfeed. I believe we do crossfeed. Actually. Pop open my... happens every once in a while. So I'm going to pop open the QRH. I don't have it set up right now to show you it. Alright, what am I looking for? I'm looking for fuel imbalance. Guess what it is. Oops. Alright, there we go. So we got our QRH up. And we're looking for fuel imbalance. There we go, imbalance right there. Right there's a fuel imbalance between the main tanks. To decide if fuel leak is suspected, to balance fuel if a fuel leak is not suspected. If an engine has low fuel flow and an unusual engine indications, the imbal alert may show due to an engine malfunction instead of a fuel leak. The imbal alert may be caused by fuel leak, an inoperative crossfeed valve, or a fuel imbalance. Our total fuel is fine. So go to step 5. Crossfeed selector open. Okay, we did that. Valve open. And then dims. Crossfeed is operating correctly. Go to 7. Main tank 1 is low. Main tank 2 is low. Fuel pump switch is off. When balancing is complete, all switches on, crossfeed selector close. Alright, so that's where we are. We'll see if that balances out. And you can see we're kind of getting some, I don't know if the frame rate deteriorates because of just the time we've been running or what. Could be a mod that's eating away too. The last flight I did down to Malta, we didn't have that bad of frame rates. I'm trying to remember where we came from though. That one. How deep into France were we?
Lufthansa 1 for Charlie. Have a good afternoon.
Ryanair 7061, Bordeaux Control, expect Mhz 1 Delta, runway 21.
Basically where we are now. Like a little bit more over France, but yeah, I don't know why. Definitely when we move. It's not as smooth as the last stream we did.
Ryanair 7061, Bordeaux Control, expect Mhz 1 Delta, runway 21. Ryanair 7061, Bordeaux Control. 7061, Mhz RAM Delta, runway 21. Report ready for descent.
Alright, so we are getting close to our the top of descent. Actually, we are right there. Wow, I thought we had a little bit more time. They actually talked to us already. So we're runway 21, expect Mana 1 Delta for the approach. We already have that in, and we're going to report ready for descent. While we are, well, let's get there ready for descent, and then we'll start descending, and then we'll put in our information
approaching our top of descent, ready for descent.
for our approach and all that.
Ryanair 7061, descend to flight level 1-0.
Descend to flight level 190, Ryanair 7061.
Okay. So first things first, we'll get in there our our auto braking to 2. Now, I'm so used to doing my Southwest virtual. Ryanair is slightly different. Let me see if there's anything about which auto brake we go for. My out go. Oh, we froze. Oh, you know what happened? Ugh. It paused at the top of descent. I didn't turn that off. Not that it matters right now anymore, but I believe it's... How do I know if it's on or off? I think that's off. I was so confused, like, why did I lose sound? And it paused at the top of descent. Which I typically don't use, but I've used a few times lately. I don't want to use it. I usually don't use it, and I usually don't use it when I'm streaming because it's kind of awkward if the plane just stops and freezes like that. But I can still move around, so I was like, whoa, what happened? Alright, let's see. I'm not seeing anything about... Doesn't help me at all. Alright, Ryanair standards of practices. Let's see. Auto brake. All landings. A serviceable aircraft, no applicable NNCs. Pilot flying with the agreement to the commander shall decide on the landing flap, auto brake, and reverse thrust settings, having consulted the QRH PI section. PI section. We're going to try to learn more stuff as we go here. I think it's the PI section.
Ryanair Maroc 850 Whiskey, Bordeaux Control.
Alright, so we are descending. A minimum of idle reverse thrust shall be used for all landings,
Ryanair 706,
along with auto brake 0, 1, 2, 3 max as appropriate.
Have a good afternoon.
Where the use of higher auto brake settings causes turnaround brake cooling issues, reverse thruster settings greater than idle should be used. So okay, when we're doing the reversers, we don't actually apply them more than idle. We should actually have more auto brake.
Descending Viaman is 1 Delta.
Idle reverse thrust therefore should be used in normal flight operations with braking action good or better as follows on the last flight of the day. Oh, idle reverse thrust is only on the last flight of the day. Okay. Any landing when turnaround schedule will not be adversely affected by sole use of auto brake. Technically, this flight, since we're not doing a turnaround in the stream, I feel like I usually do 3 when I'm with Ryanair, so we'll do 3. And I actually have failures on, and what's happened it might have been the Miami Nashville stream. As we were taxiing, we had a tire failure because the previous flight, probably for Ryanair, I had really gone hard on the brakes, and I guess I wiped out the tires and never got them serviced because I forgot that I had my failures on. And then so we fixed that, taxied. I think I fixed it. Maybe I fixed it enough that we were a taxi. Then when we landed in Nashville, the same thing happened. I was a little bit hard on the brakes and probably overheated them. Tires go down. We couldn't taxi, and I had to figure out how to get that serviced because I would turn off the failure, but then it would just come back on because you have to actually do the maintenance to get it fixed with the PMDG, which is kind of cool. Guys, I don't know what the PI is. Alright, well, we'll do auto brake 3. Okay, and then we need to go into, if I can pull this up. There it is, charts. Alright. So, we're going to go, let's look at we got minimal VFR conditions right now. Winds at coming 260, 10 knots. So we're going to have a little bit of a crosswind from the right hand side since we're going to be coming down about 210 degrees on runway 21. You can see it's all broken down in here. Visibility unlimited, 10,000 meters in this case. Broken clouds at 1,500 feet, overcast 2,500 feet. That's why we got the minimal VFR. 19 degrees, 16 degree dew point, QNH 1025. I don't know if they gave that to us already, but we can throw that in, and they'll give us a new one a little bit later. Let's see. Oh no, we didn't get the ATIS. Now we could get the ATIS and actually. Technically, you wouldn't want to do it like this.
2200 broken. 2700 overcast. Temperature 1 Nine. 2.16. QNH 1025. Landing end departing runway 21.
Okay, so what I want is, I want to go here with our RNAV.
Initial contact you have information uniform.
I forgot we were doing RNAV, so we actually aren't gonna, I don't think we don't have
Atlantique airport information uniform.
could put that in 115.5.
Wind 260 at 11. Visibility 10 miles or more. Sailing 12700.
I believe that's going to be VOR though,
2200 broken.
not ILS.
2700 overcast. Temperature 1 Nine.
Technically, I'd put this on the other radio.
QNH 1025. Landing end.
Now we might have.
Non-approach, Ryanair 7061. Descending Viaman is 1 Delta.
Oop, we
Flight
skipped. We
level
should have been on
27
Bordeaux
information
control still. Still in center.
Ryanair 7061 no approach. QNH 1025 expect the airnav runway 21 with la route transition.
Bordeaux's probably like, we didn't hand you off. Okay, so
expect the RNAV
we got that in.
with the Lyric transition.
Lyric transition, we have that in as well. Final approach course is 220, so we'll punch that in. Again, since we're doing RNAV, I don't think we really need all this in. Or this is not really going to do much for us, because we're not going to be, I don't think we're going to hit the approach button at all. Airport elevation is 90, so we'll go up here. We'll punch it into 100. Dial it into 100. Final approach track is offset 12 degrees from runway centerline. Okay. Have to keep an eye on that. Aero VNAV, local key and QNH only. BPA exceeds 3.5 above 51 degrees Celsius. Should be above that. Get down 3,000 feet. That's when we'll get the glide slope. I think we still hit approach, and that'll bring us in on the glide slope. I'm not sure. And you can see how it's actually showing us the VOR. Because if we were on, oops, if we were on the ILS, I don't believe that needle would show up like that. Here we are. This is dialed into the VOR right now, 115.5. And we want to put the minimums, which I always forget if we're a C. I usually put in that we're a C class in the Boeing 737. I believe we are. We're either D or C. I think C, so 827.
Ryanair 7061.
Feel free to correct me on that.
Level 0, mini 0.
I'm sure I could look that up quickly right now. I know it's one of those two. I always usually put in this one. And it's a lower. Well, actually, you want a higher minimum. Oh no, lower. Higher. Higher. I don't know which one's. Or no, yeah, the lower your minimum, the lower you can go. Right. I sound like I have no idea what I'm talking about. In some cases, I don't. Alright, and got all that in. We are set to go. Still got an imbalance, but you can see it is using more of this fuel. It's always interesting how the center tank drains, even though we stopped it from pumping at like 1,000. It still pulls from the center, but it's now not. It hasn't pulled from this one. So it's only pulling from this. It should balance out. All that. Seatbelt signs on. I believe we need to have the cross feed off on approach. Alright, descent and approach procedure. So I'm just looking at a checklist guide. This is JD's guide. He makes a great checklist and guides for almost every plane that's available, at least for Microsoft 2020. I don't know if for Flight Simulator 24 if you did any of these yet. So pilot not flying, center fuel tanks off when low pressure is lit. We already did that much earlier. Technically it doesn't have low pressure. I don't know. Check and set VREF and approach speeds as required. That's both of us. Let's do that. I've been forgetting to do this lately. So we're going to be going 140 knots. So actually, I believe... Ooh. I'm going here on the performance tool. Landing en route. We're going runway 21. It's already got auto brake 3 in there. I wonder if it has that because I already have it set. Now here it's saying 145 for the VREF. Oh, that's adding the 5 for the wind correction. Required landing distance, available landing distance. So we got 3,400 feet more. I tend to float though, but I'll definitely be landed by then. Or that's what we need to get stopped. So we'll be fine, even if I float a little. Anti-ice is required. Verify pressurization set for destination fuel elevation and system is operating normally. We did that. Set auto brake. At transition flight level, set altimeters to local. Set radio barrel minimums. We've done that. Set nav ADF courses for approach. We have done that. At 10,000 feet, landing lights on. And call for descent checklist when passing through 10,000. Now, again, I've got a few different descent checklists, depending on if I'm doing the virtual Ryanair normal checklist, or if I have the one right on my checklist sheet here from JD. Actually, there's nothing. The Ryanair doesn't have any like descent checklist or anything. I don't know if it's just incomplete or something, because it's only got a safety inspection before start, before taxi, shutdown, and secure. So we'll use this descent checklist on here. We're going to be looking at our pressurization, recall, auto brake, landing data, approach briefing, altimeters. We'll just double check all that stuff when we get to 10,000 feet. We'll be getting close to. Oh, no, we're only at 17. Flight level 170. We are cleared to flight level 090. Transition is 5,000 feet, so everything will be at flight level until we get there. It's always a little bit different when I'm flying, depending on if I'm flying a lot of European flights or if I'm flying a lot of American Southwest flights. I'm going to be starting, I actually got back on a pilot's life. I was part of Southwest Airlines on a pilot's life also, kind of. Also, Bo. Oh, thanks for the follow, Apolody76. Discord. Light 1. Alright, I'll do that. Thanks, hey buddy, your stream was so amazing. Yep, I'm, again, just getting back into it, so haven't got all the functionality going here, sound effects, all that stuff, stream alerts. I gotta go. That's a lot of under the hood stuff. Right now it's just like, hey, can we get actually get the flight going, do good stuff. Alright, flight level 70, 7,000 feet on the altimeter there.
Level 070, Ryanair 7061.
Thanks for the follow. Yeah, once I get back into it, hopefully we'll get the camera going, get the lighting set up right. Hopefully get a few more people in, we'll get some conversations going, talk about other stuff. I did ramble on earlier about my flight training, bills. It's been a year since I've streamed, so I'm hoping to see some regulars come in here too and catch up on what's gone on over the last few years. It's a lot different also streaming and flying versus just flying, because I have been doing that on and off over the last year. But in that, it's like, hey, if I screw something up, no one else sees it, or if I overshoot my descent, or or even just talking to myself, talking to you guys. So thanks for the follow. Yep, I'll try to. Right now, I'm not sure. Well, once I get a schedule figured out, I'll start posting when we're gonna stream. Obviously on Twitch and on YouTube. I typically stream on my days off, and my days off now, Sundays, I've gotten pretty secure at having off every Sunday now, but then the other day of the week is up in the air. It's always, could be Monday, could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But because I have Sunday off, I'll probably not ever have Saturdays off ever again, because it's not fair to the other guys that I get the whole weekend off. So I guess I have to pick up all the Saturdays since they have to pick up all the Sundays. But once I figure that out, and then figure out the good time to stream, I've typically streamed early in the morning, 6 in the morning like I did today. Because once my wife and my son are up, then it's kind of, okay, let's do stuff. We got other things to do, grocery shopping, laundry, especially during the summer, go out and do things. But between the flight training and summer, it's going to be, do I want to stream at 6 in the morning also, because that's a good time for me to get up, do some things, eat breakfast, and then go out and bike ride, and then, or go do my flight training, because I like to do my flight training early in the morning. So maybe the streaming will be in the evening, but then you got the whole other thing where we're busy with dinner and getting ready for bed and all that, so we'll see what happens. We'll try to get some streams in here. I know you're new to the channel. If you're new, over the last, basically since Microsoft Flight Simulator came out, because I was doing this in X-Plane, I was doing a world tour flying in and out of, basically going country to country throughout the world, and just point to point to point. So airport A to B, B to C, C to D, and I've gone all the way around the world. The last one we did was over a year ago. I think it was like January 2024, and we were flying from Kyrgyzstan to Kuwait, and on approach into Kuwait, the sim crashed, and so I was kind of shy about doing that flight again because it's a 4-hour flight. I'm probably using time acceleration, so it wasn't a big deal, but I kind of got away. That's kind of what threw me off from doing regular streaming, and I started wanting to stream other stuff like doing virtual Ryanair or doing virtual Southwest Airlines. I think I tried to do a few Southwest Airlines ones. The problem is that my computer is just not beefy enough for flying and streaming in the US. The US is just very intensive on the CPU. Europe can get intensive. Our frame rates are dropping a little bit here in France. I wonder if it has something to do with all this cloud cover. A lot more weather than the last time we streamed a couple days ago over France, where frames are really nice. So I am looking at upgrading my computer. I don't know if that's going to happen though. Alright, we're at 10,000 feet, so we're going to throw on our landing lights. You see we're kind of leveling out to lose that speed, get down to 250. Descent checklist, pressurization, landing altitude is 90. We have 100 set. Recall checked. We have fuel because we got that fuel imbalance. That's what it's telling us. Auto brake set to 3. Landing data VREF 140, 30 degrees for our flaps. Minimums 827 baro set. Approach briefing. I'm not exactly sure what we do for the approach briefing. We'll come back to that. We'll kind of talk about it. Won't be technically a briefing in a sense, but kind of. And technically under 10,000 feet, we should have a stale cockpit, so I shouldn't be talking to you guys anyway, but we will. End of the world. Once we get down to, after this decel point, I'll probably want to focus a little bit more. Altimeters 1025, that will set once we get to 5,000. Once I set that, we'll kind of go stale cockpit. So, on our approach, we did have a little thing saying our final approach track is offset 12 degrees from the runway center line, so we're on the RNAV. We do have to pay attention to that. Actually, we can see it right here, I think. That's what's happening here, is that's the actual center line, and we're going to be coming in kind of offset. And you can also see it on the chart here. Oh, there's our path. But you can see how the runway's right there. I believe that's the runway, unless there's two runways. Are there? No, yeah. That's the runway. You can see how we kind of have to make that turn. But it's going to get us right to there, and then obviously we'll visually fly it in. And we do have minimal VFR, so it will be fine. We should be break the cloud cover by then. Alright, we've been cleared to only a flight level 070, so hopefully they clear us. Yeah. Okay, next one we can go down to 3,000. Max speed of 210 knots. You see our speed coming down.
Ryanair 7061, established on final approach.
Right now on final, we're on. I'll make sure they don't forget about us. Can I descend? I'm gonna go on 3000. Sometimes these AI or computer. I mean, this isn't really AI traffic control. Not say intentions, which is a little bit more AI. They sometimes forget to clear you further down, and we need to get cleared down, and we only have a max speed of 210 once we get down there. We're gonna throw out the speed brakes. Now it is above 3,000, so I think, yeah, technically we don't need to get down to 3,000 yet. But I'd rather get down there than be able to bleed that speed off too. Because it tends to be a problem on a lot of my approaches that when ATC kind of guides me in and then I'm behind the plane. Because they want me to do these incredibly steep descents, which makes it very hard to bleed that speed off. So you can see we're not down to our minimum or our max speed of 210. I got the speed brakes deployed. I'm trying. Actually, we could start putting out some flaps. They'll help us have a steeper descent. And a lower speed. Pull the throttle back here. Lead off as much speed as we can. Alright, so looking at the airport chart, we're probably going to exit pretty far down the runway at Bravo. And then we'll have to taxi back. But we're going to exit to the left. We'll pass the terminal on our landing. We'll be right towards the approach end of the runway, so a little bit of a taxi back, but we have a taxiway. We'll be Bravo and then we'll be on Romeo 2. If we're going to... Our booking has us going to gate 5A. Let's see if they give us 5A. Whoa, our speed came down pretty far. Because I'm still in... I turned off auto throttle. It's alright. Actually, it's totally fine.
Ryanair 7061.
Yeah, I'm looking like beyond ATC. I have like my last clearance. It says maintain flight level 070. It's like way past that point, guys. Come on. All right, let's get our flaps 30. Landing gear down. Make sure we keep our speed.
Knock Tower, Ryanair 7061, RAV runway 21.
Ryanair 7061, no tower, wind 20 at 10, runway 21, PRL to land.
Runway 21, clear to land. Ryanair 7061.
Definitely going to lose some frame rates here too, just because they're trying to load in all this photogrammetry.
2500.
It's the only bummer is the photogrammetry. If your internet connection for some reason just doesn't want to pull this in. I think it's also you can cache this maybe, I don't know. Okay, there's the runway, so you can see we're offset, so we're gonna have to turn right towards the end. Okay, we want to take off our speed brake. I forgot that we had the speed brake on too. Double checking these things. Alright, landing checklist down to the flaps. Engine start switch is continuous, speed brake armed, landing gear down. And we'll complete the checklist. Flaps 30, green light. Yeah, it'd just be so great if this photogrammetry would like load in nicely. The only problem, I think once you fly over an area it does stay, and that might be my, I don't know if I have caching on, but I think if you have caching on, once it loads it will save that area. That's not what I wanted. There it is. Now the city's kind of loaded in. You see a nice church there. Get a little slow.
1000.
I wonder if it's going to turn me here automatically. Does it?
Plus 100. Minimums.
Hi. Just hi. Hi, hi. Oh. Okay, you kind of want to dip me off the other direction there. Once we got past. So now we're a little bit of an overshoot here. Maybe it must have. I don't know if it just disconnected there or not. I know I just manually disconnected it. It felt like it was going to pull to the right. I feel like I'm crabbing. The wind should be turning me more here.
$50, $40,
Whoa.
$30, $20.
It's floating. Wow. I don't know what it is lately. My landings feel like I'm floating all over the place on those landings. Like I'm in the... Feels like more like I'm in the CRJ with my landings lately on these, not the greatest looking landing there. That was kind of all over the place.
Exit next available taxiway, Ryanair 7061.
Yeah, I don't, it wants to go all over. It's like, where are my main gears? Like I said, my landings are feeling more and more shaky as I go along. Similar to my real life flight training now.
Ground 121.655, Ryanair
Okay,
7061.
do I want to go to ramp
Have a
10?
good afternoon.
Is that a good one for us? I don't think that's one of our ramps. But yeah, it's not one of our ramps. We're gonna have GSX set up for 5 alpha. Doesn't help me at all, these gates. Oh, here we go. We'll request taxi to sign gate because 10's right across from 5A.
Ryanair 7061. Request taxi to assigned gate.
B738, ramp 10, taxi at pilotage discrétion.
Ramp 10 taxi at my discretion, Ryanair 7061.
Turn off all the engines, engine 2. Yeah, I didn't completely idle. Well, because the problem is when I completely idle, and this is, yeah, it's like I completely idle and then I drop out of the sky. And it's like there's this weird, and you got to completely idle at the right point, and I tend to completely idle just a little too early, I guess, and then I end up just thumping. But then if I don't idle, then then you float. So it's a. But even then, when it's like I get the one. I don't know if that was because the wind kept me going there, because we did have a little bit of wind, and it's weird when I was coming in because I had no rudder correction. I was coming in crabbing even though I had no correction, and I wasn't trying to crab. It's like, is the wind pushing me? But the wind should have been pushing my nose the other way, to the left, away from the crab. I should have been crabbing. It auto crabbed for me or something. It was very weird. Then I was trying to throw a rudder in to get it straightened out, and then it kind of.
Craft be advised d'information Whiskey now current, QNH1025.
Of course, that's the part where I struggle with my landings in the Cessna, in my real world private pilot training. So, not surprising. Okay, we'll turn here on Romeo Charlie. There you can see it says 5 Alpha. We'll see if there's a plane in there. There probably is, it looks like. That's why they gave us 10, because 5 is probably already got a plane in it. Well, 5 Alpha does, but 5 doesn't. I don't think we can do 5. Yeah, we could. Well, we'll go to 10 here. Let's tell GSX to set up for that. I'm surprised that we use, I guess at this airport they must use the jetways for Ryanair. Because typically, you would think we would have just gotten, stand 10 would be one of Ryanair's stands, but I guess they don't use 8, 9, or 10, they use 1 through 7. According to Virtual Ryanair, at least. Alright, APU running. Engine 1 spooling down. Lights off. Probe heat off. Anti-collision light off. So it's cross feed. And we'll get our chocks, and we'll get some ground power. Okay, shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps off. Electrical. Ground power on. Seatbelts off. Window heat off. Actually, doing the wrong thing here. Need to look at the through flight stuff because technically we're doing a through flight, even though we're not going to keep streaming. We'll come next stream. If I do this next flight on stream, we'll do it as if it's a through flight. So electrical, we're on the ground power, fasten seatbelts off, probe heat off, anti-ice off, voice recorder on and auto, air condition packs auto, engine bleed on, APU bleed off, exterior lights, we'll keep the logo light on and the position light steady. Start switches off, auto brake off, speed brake down detent, flaps up, no lights, parking brake set, start levers cut off, weather radar off, transponder 2000 and standby. Oh, it's 2000 and standby. CVR, CB in and out, cockpit door unlocked. All we need for that. I don't know if I missed the passengers coming off or not. Alright, so let's see how I did on that flight. Well, landing rate was fine. Actually, my landing rate on my last few flights have actually been in the sub 200s, which has been nice. I was more concerned about kind of just, we didn't seem very level on the, we kind of came down on one gear, and our left wing started going down. You don't want to do that because that's when you get a wing strike, and that's not a good thing. Alright, that was a good flight, getting back into it. Hope you enjoy it. I will try to put out a schedule ahead of time, our flights. We'll start getting back into the world tour at some point and finish up the last few flights of the world tour, and then possibly just, I'm thinking I want to do, we're going to do the world tour, finish that up. We're going to do some virtual Ryanair, try to do some virtual Southwest, but flying in the US is a lot harder on my computer, so streaming is not as ideal for that. Maybe try to do some CRJ flights in the US as well, SkyWest, but like I said, same thing. If the US just is more intense on the CPU. But once I finish the world tour, what I want to kind of do is I kind of want to do a world tour, but do it a little differently than I did it the first time, where I was flying, you know, A, B, B to C, C to D, airport wise, and kind of jump around continents, where it's like, okay, maybe I'll do a flight Canada to, you know, Canada to the US, and then I'll jump, maybe we'll go over to Asia and we'll do like Korea to Japan. You know, we'll kind of stagger them around so we're not just in one part of the world for such a long time, because it gets a little, when I was doing the world tour where I'm going point to point to point to point, like I'm flying a circle around the world, you kind of get stuck in one place. You're stuck in the Asia, in the Middle East for a whole bunch of time. It's just desert all the time. Or you're in the ocean and you're just flying over ocean, landing on islands all the time. And it'd be kind of cool to jump from point to point, maybe jump into the where it's winter for one flight, and then jump, you know, do a flight in New Zealand and Australia, and then go up to Canada, and then, you know, go and kind of bounce around the world a little bit more. So that's kind of my plan going forward. We'll see how that works, and we see how much I can stream. Kind of keep these streams probably one flight, or possibly 4 hours a stream at the most. So shouldn't be too long. If they are longer, there'll be streams where it's like the flight will be flying, you guys can pop in and see the plane going over some land or wherever we are, but I won't be at the controls the whole time talking. So if you're interested in that, give it a like, subscribe. We had a few guys come in here today. First time I've met them, Polity76 and Hi on YouTube. Thanks for showing up. Hope to see you in the future. And until next time, well, get some little bit of music going. Till next time, happy flying and take care.